We are starting with the audio test. This is Google Pixel 9 versus 9a. Battle of the flagship versus mid-range Google Pixel. Pixel 9 has 50 megapixel main and 48 megapixel ultra wide, while Google Pixel 9a, the mid-range phone, has 48 megapixel main and 13 megapixel ultra wide. I think that's it for the audio test. Let the battle begin. On 1.5x, you would see that Pixel 9a has better exposed subject. You can see this on the jacket, while on Pixel 9a, it aggressively blurs everything including my shoes and my pants. Not perfect in terms of edge detection, but I'm leaning towards Pixel 9a. On this image on the upper right corner of the hair, better edge detection on Pixel 9a. Flagship Pixel 9 has creamier background blur, while Pixel 9a is gradual blur and better exposed. On 2x, you will notice that the image on Pixel 9a is warmer than the mid-range competition. Again, looking at the face, you have more details on Pixel 9a as opposed to the smoother Pixel 9. New era, like a phoenix, I rose up. Same tendencies on 1.5x. On 2x, you got creamier background blur on Pixel 9, but the edge detection is more consistent on Pixel 9a. I think the mid-range is doing really well on this. On 3x, this is where the flagship phone wins. I feel like the mid-range Pixel 9a has a little bit of artifacts on the face, while on the flagship Pixel 9, it maintains that great quality all throughout from 1.5x to 3x. But with proper lighting and distance, you may also get really detailed face on Pixel 9a. On the selfie, I might lean towards the mid-range Pixel 9a. You got better contrast than our competition. Also, the color of the skin is more inviting. And even on harsh sunlight, you would notice that the light contour on Pixel 9a illuminates the face better compared to Pixel 9. Now we're testing the video quality using the selfie video recording 4K 30 FPS. The main difference here is you have 60 FPS on Pixel 9, and we got 12 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a against 10.5 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. So you have a higher megapixel count on Pixel 9a compared to Pixel 9. In terms of video quality, almost the same. I can't see any difference in terms of contrast and the color of my face. In terms of field of view, you can actually switch to 1.4x on both phones. So here's 1.4x. And we can zoom in to 4x on both phones as well. So you can see the difference. Is there any difference in terms of the video recording capability? Look at the sharpness on my face and details and colors. I think that's it for the selfie video recording. Now let's check the rear cameras. Now we're shooting the rear camera using the ultra-wide lens, starting with Pixel 9a's 13 megapixel sensor compared to Pixel 9's 48 megapixel sensor. We have 1 over 1.31 inch sensor on the mid-range Google, and we have 1 over 2.55 larger on the flagship Google Pixel 9. In terms of video quality, I think almost the same look. I think just a difference on the sharpness and details. You got better details on the 48 megapixel sensor of Pixel 9. But again, if you're not doing it side-by-side test or like zooming in on the video, you wouldn't probably notice the difference. I think that's it for the ultra-wide lens. Now let's check the main sensor. Now we're testing the main sensor. This is the 50 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9 and 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. In terms of the sensor size, 1/2 inch sensor on Pixel 9a, smaller compared to Pixel 9's 1 over 1.31. Almost 1 inch sensor on Pixel 9. That's really good. In terms of video quality, on daylight condition, if we have enough light. Later, we will do the outdoor video quality test. So you can see the selfie and the rear camera differences. I think that's it for the main sensor. Now let's check the zoom. And lastly, we have the battle of the zoom. This is cropping in on the 50 megapixel sensor of Google Pixel 9 and 48 megapixel sensor of Pixel 9a. So this is the quality of both phones. I think they're pretty similar in terms of video quality. So from the selfie, ultra-wide main sensor, and even the zoom, which phone do you think is better? Now let's check the image quality. Two of the best phones in terms of image quality, even though Pixel 9 is just a mid-range phone. I mean, it goes head-to-head or toe-to-toe with the flagship Pixel 9. Although one thing is for sure, you got a creamier background blur on the close-up on Pixel 9 just because of the larger sensor compared to the 1/2 inch sensor of Pixel 9a. In terms of colors, I think Pixel 9 is more vivid and brighter than Pixel 9a. If you're looking on a bigger screen, you will notice the difference. It's a bit darker on Pixel 9a compared to the flagship Pixel 9. Also on the flagship Pixel 9, there's auto macro if you're doing close-up shots, so it's a plus for the flagship. Pixel 9a doesn't have macro capability. But then again, if you're not looking on a side-by-side test or comparing both phones, you will hardly notice the difference. Both of these Google phones has the same exact color science. We got ultra-wide main sensor and 2x crop on both phones, but on the farthest zoom 8 times, you got better details on Pixel 9. Again, the advantage of macro shot on the flagship Pixel 9, and looking at the slow motion, both phones has full HD resolution. Starting our outdoor video recording test using the selfie video recording. This is 60 FPS on Pixel 9 and 30 FPS on Google Pixel 9a, both in 4K video recording. So this is what it looks like. Look at the sky, the clouds, which phone has bluer sky, and the colors of the buildings here, even the grass. Let's check the video stabilization. Now let's check the rear cameras. Now we're testing the rear camera. I don't know if you can hear the wind noise. It's a little bit windy today. So this is 4K 30 FPS on both phones, starting with the ultra-wide lens. This is 0.5x. So you can see both has the same field of view in terms of the ultra-wide. Looking at the grass, I think they're almost the same. And also the sun and the sky. Which phone do you think is bluer? I think Pixel 9a is bluer than Pixel 9a. Might just be the screen of both phones, but I feel like they're almost the same, to be honest. Let's check the video stabilization. Which phone do you think is better in terms of video stabilization? Now let's switch to the main sensor. So this is 50 megapixel versus 48 megapixel sensor. By the way, on the ultra wide lens, this is 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9 and only 13 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. So in terms of details, which we won't probably see, we will have better details of course on Pixel 9a. But again, day-to-day use, I don't see any difference. You wouldn't probably notice any difference between the two. Again, switching to the main sensor. So in terms of megapixel, there's just 2 megapixel difference. So I don't think you will have any problem with the details or any difference. This is a 1/2 inch sensor on Pixel 9a, and we have 1/31 or 1/1.31 inch sensor on Pixel 9. In terms of autofocus, I think they're almost the same in terms of the autofocus. And color wise, again, they're almost the same. Even the sky and even the buildings here, almost the same look for both phones. Let's check the video stabilization quickly. We also have 2x. Now we're zooming in on the 50 megapixel sensor, and on the farthest zoom we got 7x on Pixel 9 and only 5x on Pixel 9a. I think that's it. Switching back to the ultra wide, which phone do you think is better? On night shots, I think both phones look pretty similar from the contrast, colors, and details. I mean, the HDR shot of Pixel phones are doing a phenomenal job.
Hey, all your friends are gonna notice. You make it look easy. Go on and do what you do. All of this.
We got great details and the images are not so bright as a Samsung or some Chinese phones. Pixel phones will give you that low light vibe into it. Now on pitch black condition, this is where the sensor size matters. You got a bigger sensor on Pixel 9 that translates to better image quality. We got sharper, brighter, and better exposed image compared to the mid-range Pixel 9a.
All the colors here, all the colors here. that'll blow your mind. Now let me show you something that'll blow your mind. Now let me show you something that'll blow your mind.
Here, I will show you the ultra-wide main sensor and crop. I feel like Pixel 9 wins the night shot category.
This is going, turning heads, turning heads.
Now, this is the low-light video recording test, starting with the selfie video recording, 4K 30 FPS. We got 60 FPS on Google Pixel 9, the flagship Google phone. In terms of sensor size, we have 1/1.31 on both phones. Same sensor size. The only difference here is 10.5 megapixel on Pixel 9 and we have 13 megapixel on 9A. In terms of video quality on low-light condition, brighter and noisier Pixel 9 compared to the more contrasty but smoother Pixel 9a. We can also crop in at 1.4. You can see that Google Pixel 9 is noisier than the competition. We can also go 4x on both phones. Now you can see that Google Pixel 9 is noisier. Now let's check the rear cameras. Now we're testing the rear camera, starting with the ultra-wide lens in 4K 30 FPS. So both phones can shoot 30 FPS 4K video recording using the ultra-wide. In terms of sensor size, we have 1/2.55 inch on Pixel 9 and 1/1.31 on Pixel 9a. Same sensor size on the selfie and the ultra-wide for the mid-range Google Pixel. In terms of low-light video recording, I think you have a much better video recording on Google Pixel 9 compared to Pixel 9a. It is brighter and less noise compared to the competition. We have a darker low-light video on Pixel 9a, but in terms of field of view, we got 0.5x on both phones. Similar field of view. I think that's it for the ultra-wide sensor or ultra-wide lens. Now let's check the main sensor. Now we have the main sensor, 4K 30 FPS. So we have a 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a and we have 50 megapixel sensor on Google Pixel 9. Also in the ultra-wide lens, this is a 13 megapixel sensor versus 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9. I forgot to mention this on our ultra-wide test. In terms of the sensor size on the main sensor, we have 1/1.31 inch on Pixel 9 and 1/2 inch sensor on Pixel 9a. Bigger lens or bigger sensor on Pixel 9. So in terms of low-light video recording, I would think that Pixel 9 will crush Pixel 9a, but let me know your thoughts on the comment section below if that's the case. I think that's it for the main sensor. Now let's check the zoom. So this is the zoom test on Pixel 9a and Pixel 9. This is using the 50 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9 and 48 megapixel sensor on Pixel 9a. We don't have telephotos on the regular Pixel 9 and the mid-range Pixel 9a, so we're just using the crop on the main sensor. So from the selfie video recording, ultra-wide main sensor, and even the digital crop, which phone do you think is better? Now let's check the video resolution. Now this is the video resolution test, starting with Pixel 9a. This is 4K 60 FPS on the mid-range. And this is 4K 60 FPS on the flagship Pixel 9. So after this video, the question here is Pixel 9a good enough, or is it worth it to upgrade to the flagship Pixel 9? Leave your comment down below, and as always, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.